Hi, friends. Happy Monday. I hope you had a great day and a great weekend. I had a fantastic 4 days at a women's retreat in northern, or I want to say it's probably central Minnesota. It's about 2+ hours from here, and I had an absolutely amazing time with some really wonderful women, godly women, and doing some hard work, doing some soul searching and work on my soul. So I don't know if you ever have an opportunity to go to a captivating retreat, but it is part of the Wild at Heart Ministries, and it's just amazing. I have read the book multiple times, gone through the workbook, but this was a deep dive and really helps you break those agreements that you've made with the dark side, that you've made with Satan, that brings you down and burdens your soul and takes away from who you are as a woman. So anyway, I if you want any information about it, just reach out to me and I'll share it with you. So on to beautiful gallery suite collection. This is just such a stunning gallery. I feel like I could easily spend a week's vacation just playing with this. And obviously, I haven't been here. So I had been playing with it last week a little bit while I had time. I was really busy with work. So these are the bundles that are part of this beautiful gallery and suite collection. And it is available starting tomorrow at probably 12:01, something like that. So if you're wanting to get it at it early in the morning, you're welcome to it. So this Gallery Blooms has this set of dies. Oh, you know what? I've got the wrong set of dies here. So this actually goes with this set because it's got these dies that you can do different things along with the frames, but then it has the outline for the beautiful flowers that are on this stamp set. So let me just bring this up so you can see it. So you can see that all of these beautiful stamp sets have a way for you to die cut them out. And then there are frames, and then these are little dies that you can cut items out. And then there's this beautiful motifs, which has these dies. So the beautiful motifs dies, and actually the imagery are really close. So you can see that this is a bigger version of this. And then we've got some other motifs. Then there's the beautiful fern. So, and then it has all these really beautiful sentiments. Wishing you love and happiness that lasts a lifetime. I'm here for you always. Just a note, hello, thinking of you, celebrate. Thank you for everything, and you've been on my mind. So I love these sentiments. They're just really, really beautiful. I don't think there's any other dies. Nope, that's all there is for this set. We're going to be using some from this set. We're going to be using some from this set. And then along with that, they have this beautiful Damask Designs embossing folder. And as you can see, it's really beautiful. Just makes a really beautiful impression, and we'll be using that. And then we have the embellishments. These are called pressed flower motifs. And let me get it close so you can see it. Just little metal. They look like little metal brad heads. Sorry if it's going blurry on me. So just really beautiful. And then they have this really pretty, it's almost like a linen ribbon that is basic beige. So really beautiful. And then I just want to show you these individually. I mean, just look how gorgeous that is. And then this is the back side. And then you've got this one. And this is the back side. I mean, this is a really beautiful little pattern. You've got this beautiful landscape, and then all of these beautiful roses, or maybe they could be ranunculus. And then you have this really beautiful pattern, and then you've got like a gesso background on this page. These are all 6x6. And this one is one of my favorites. It's so pretty. And I love little botanicals. And then this is like another gesso in this really pretty green. It's like a light version of Mossy Meadow. There's this one, which is just a beautiful, looks like a little Paris scene, and then this beautiful, or even a London scene. This beautiful print is the back side. And then this one just looks like a gallery print. And then this is just a real quick sketch with a background, a lighter version of the same. So it's just really beautiful. All kinds of options for that. And then here's another one. This one's got trees with some sort of a background here. I'm not really sure what that background is. And then this is another gesso print. And then here's another beautiful lake or sea coast inlet. And then another gesso background. And then here's another one that's a favorite of mine. Just, I love these roses. And this one, I love the little map. And it's probably a map of London or something, not sure. And then this one here, just so pretty. Little countryside lane. And then another gesso background. Just too many options to speak of. There's actually one other, but I used them all and I don't have them. And if you remember, I was doing a big, swap, and I had 21 of these. So I ended up making like 24. And so this is another painting, and this is a card that we're going to make tonight, but with a different image. So anyway, so lots and lots and lots to choose from. It's just so, so beautiful. Okay, so the first card I want to make with you is just a simple card. And I couldn't decide because there was just so many colors in this beautiful imagery. So what I did is I took one 6x6 and I cut it in half. So I have two 3x3, and then I cut a little bit off the top, a little bit off the bottom, so that it was about 5.5 inches. Okay. So then we place it on a little bit of the Mossy Meadow, and we're going to stamp using this beautiful stamp set. So I don't have any sentiments on any of my cards, and we're going to do that tonight because I was trying to figure out which one I wanted for Mother's Day. Okay, so we're going to just go along the edges because that's really all that's going to be seen. And then let me take this off. I keep misplacing my... And that one's completely dry. Here we go. Forgot to prep. Okay, so this is 3 inches by 5.5, and I am, whoops, looks like I made it a little bit too big. So let me cut it down. This needs to be 3 1/4. So this one is 3 inches by 5.5, and this is 3 1/4 by 5.5. So let me just glue this on. And it just gives it like a little damask background. And then I'm placing it on a piece of 4 inch by 5.5 basic black. And this is the other half of that image that's in this card. And it looks like I forgot to make myself a card base. I'm using the basic beige. And I'm going to glue it onto here, and just a little bit of the basic beige is going to show on both sides. There's something about the black that just is so beautiful with these images. I found that all my cards had black in them. And then I have 2 little strips of gold. It's just scraps. And I'm going to place them on both sides of my imagery because it's very expensive to layer with gold foil. And I'm not going to both ends because it is slightly longer than it needs to be, and I'm going to trim that off here shortly. And these were just scraps, so they're not exactly perfect, but if you don't mind, I don't mind. And then I can just turn it over and trim it. Okay, so now we have to figure out which sentiment. And so I'm making a bunch of Mother's Day cards, and I've already used I'm Here For You Always, so I'm gonna save that one for later. But I think Thank You for Everything is a great one for a Mother's Day card because it just tells them how much you love them, or, you know, appreciate everything. Or you've been on my mind, thinking of you. And you can always put your Happy Mother's Day greeting on the inside. So how about you've been on my mind? So let me just bring up. So I've got some little dies here, and I like this littlest one. Let's see if it fits. And these are the nested essential dies. Let me see that if it works with the actual You've Been on My Mind. Yep, it'll work just perfect. Okay. Okay, so then what cardstock am I going to use? And I'm thinking the basic beige. Just use a scrap of that. And just make sure the scrap is big enough for the die. Looks like it. And then I can use the Mossy Meadow. And I need 2 of these. And then we're going to die cut them out. So I like using these little Post-it. They could be label covers, or they can actually just hold your dies, which I love that. And I have a kitty that needs out. I'll be right back. must have been hiding in her little bed. And I may have another one. I do. Up on top of my cabinet. They like hanging out with me. Mom seems to be one of their favorite people, and I was gone all weekend. So, isn't that beautiful? And then one more for this second. And you know what? It's a little bit too far over to one side. And the other side's already embossed. So let's get another scrap. Yeah, crouton. I know. You want to land right there, don't you? All right. Another kitty wants out. My apologies. Knocking over things. I'll be back. Okay. We're back. Center it. And then die cut. Okay. So both of these, I think, would be pretty if you just kind of scooted them over to one side. And I'd like to use dimensionals. And so we'll use the black ones, but I'd like to use just a little bit of ribbon and just should we do a bow or should we do oh, I'm not feeling the ribbon or the bow thing, but I do want the ribbon. So I'm thinking something like that. So let me get my dimensionals figured out. And then let's use our little glue dots. Probably didn't need this much ribbon, but we'll trim it off accordingly. And then I can just trim this a little bit, and then embellish. You can see how pretty these are now that I've taken them out of the package. So just little flowers, really beautiful. And I'm only doing 2 because I feel like with the ribbon it kind of makes it solid. But anyway, I can embellish this later, but isn't that beautiful? Just super simple. So that's our first card. All right, now for the next one. So when I was creating a bazillion of these cards, when you cut out this frame, you end up cutting out this frame and this middle, because if you notice, this frame is actually one piece. So what it does is it just cuts out 3 pieces, and so I had 24 of these pieces after making these cards. So I was trying to figure out how to use them. So I decided I wanted to use them inside, and so what I've done is I've layered those 3 insides on a piece of the Lost Lagoon two-tone cardstock, and I think I have the light side up. Yeah, I do. The light side up. So this is an A2 card in basic beige, and then I had a 4" by 5 1/4 piece of basic black. So that meant that the piece that is the Lost Lagoon is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So that's the layer, and then these 3 fit really nicely on that. Now here I have another piece of the two-tone cardstock, so you can see the different colors. So you can see that there's 2 tones to it, and I'm using the lighter side. And I thought of putting a really pretty sentiment on this one, and then layering with this. So let me show you how I put the card together. And then I'm going to put a little piece of gold in there as well. Okay, so we've got our A2 card base. And then I'm going to glue on the 4" by 5 1/4 piece of basic black. And I'm going to center that on the basic beige cardstock. And then I've got the 3 7/8 by 5 1/8 piece of Lost Lagoon two-tone cardstock. Did I just glue the wrong side? I did. All right, this one's darker. I think it'll be okay. And then I place these 3, and as you can see, this beautiful embossed element, which is from this Damask Designs. So you can see that there's a narrower side and a fatter side, and I have the narrower side down. And so what I want is I want to place the 2 on the outside edge, and then I'll place the 1 in the middle. Okay, because it's easier to line them up that way. And I want it to go over as far over as I can with just a little bit of like a 1/16 of an inch. And then I want to do the same thing with this one. So I'm just leaving a little tiny bit on this side and just making sure that they line up together. And then I can put this middle one in. And if you do it fast enough, you can do any sort of adjustments that you need to do so that they all line up. But isn't that a pretty way to use up the middles of all of those pieces? So now I want a sentiment, and let's do thinking of you. And I'm going to need to use this side of this one instead of the other. So let's get the, let's use black. I think the black would be better. And I know my black is here. There it is. Okay. And I just want to place it so that it has room for this to lay over it. And then I want a piece of this. And so let me just kind of take a look at what looks good. You can angle it too if you want to. And then I'm adding this really beautiful floral. So this is just in basic beige. You can do it in a different color if you like that better. But, and then I just want it to not cover up the thinking of you. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to glue this on because I don't want to pop anything up because this floral is just a little bit too fragile to pop up. And then I'm going to add this. And I'm just using scraps because this was a 6 by 4 inch originally. And so I'm just using this the way it is. All right, now if you have like a smaller detailed glue, you can do that. I'm too lazy to get it out. And I'm just going sparingly with my glue so that and then I'm just going to drape it across. And then I have my little embellishments. And there we go. Just another really beautiful card. And it's just a way for me to use up all those pieces. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to make 24 of those, but it just gives you some options. Okay, so now for the next card. All right, so this is, again, another way for me to use that embossed piece that's smaller than my other card. But I also wanted to show you how beautiful this motif is and what it does. So it doesn't actually, oh, looks like I'm having some issues with my video. Well, my son must be on the internet. I'm sorry. There's some cutting out. was hoping that you could see how beautiful this is. So it actually doesn't cut it out. It cuts around parts of it, but it stays in place. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, so I've got a little tiny piece of cardstock here. It's 1.5 by 3.25, and it perfectly fits with this die. And this one, and this one, all three do not cut out that design. So what you end up having is pieces that can pop up. So let me show you what I mean. Let me die cut this real quick and I'll show you. So when this die cuts it, it doesn't actually die cut it out, and each individual piece stays in place. Okay, so there's parts of it that will pop up, but there's parts of it that have kept it in place. So what I'm doing is I am popping it up on a piece of gold. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put dimensionals underneath that will help it pop up. Okay. So I want just the elements that I've die cut to pop up. So let me show you what I mean. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the little dimensionals where the parts are that I want popped up. All right, I need some little narrow ones, so let me just trim some of these down. So I've got just some little pieces, because these little areas are very small and I just want them to pop up a little bit. Okay, so you can kind of see what I've done. Just where stuff is going to pop up, I've put a dimensional. Now I'm going to glue the rest of it down. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to glue around all the other pieces. So anywhere that I've put a dimensional, I'm not gluing. You can kind of see what I'm doing here. All right, let me take these off. Probably should have put them off, taken them off first, because I've got all this glue to contend with. Sometimes tweezers work the best. Okay. So I'm just centering it on this piece of gold. Come on. Just go where I want you to go. All right, so now I'm pressing around the pieces that I die cut. And that way you can see the 3D of what is sticking up. See what I mean? It doesn't cut it out. It just pops it up a little bit. And there's places that hold it in place, but it just creates this beautiful 3D element. Okay, So now I need to put that on my card base. Let me get rid of some of these things. Okay, so I need this centered on my piece of cardstock. So you can see this is an A2 card base, and it's just 1/4 of an inch smaller. So put this in the middle. That way I can line it up with my grids. And then this is going to go over the top of it with just a little bit of that gold foil popping through. So you have a really beautiful, so I'm going to pop this up. And I'm going to use bigger pieces for the ends. And then I'll just use it's better if you have strips, but those are on order for me. I just used up all of them because, like I said, I had 24 cards to make, and I didn't have a full package in the beginning. So okay. Let's see if we can make sure this is done right. And there we go. And now I can put this on my card base. You can see I'm using a lot of basic beige and black and gold. Just, it makes for really beautiful cards. And I forgot about it. I, for whatever reason, stopped using black, and I used to use it all the time. And it makes just such a lovely card. And I think I'm going to leave this one without a sentiment so that I can make it Mother's Day. But aren't they beautiful? And just the little 3D in here where it just pops up just makes such a gorgeous card. And just a little bit of the hint of gold. I had black behind this one, but I like the gold better. So, and that is with this die that comes from the Beautiful Motifs die set. Okay. Now, next, I am going to show you how I made this card. Okay. So, again, I'll be making enough stuff that I'll have extras of these again, but I did want to show you one other thing that I did. So this was just me using 3 of these and just overlapping them, tucking them into each other. And because they made more of a square, you could make that into like a 6x6 card, but I thought this was a fun pattern, and it could just say thank you, but you can see it's got the beautiful embossing on it. So that's just one idea. And then actually in the catalog, Stampin' Up! When you get your catalog, or if you have yours, if you go to page 52, there's a great example. And let me just show you with a piece of black cardstock. So I know I have a bunch of these. Let me just get them out. So what they did is they stuck a little bit here, a little bit there, which means you could probably use, and then another one here. and then another one over here, and then trimmed it out. So let me put it on white so you can see what I'm doing. It's just another idea of how to use extra pieces. So when you're die cutting a bazillion of something, so I have this and then here. And so I would just make sure that they're nicely lined up and then cut them off. So let's see, this one actually, but anyway, you can kind of just, it's a way for you to use them if you're making a bunch of the same. And just a little abstract, geometric, and then you just pick a pretty color in the background. So anyway, just another idea, because, you know, when you've got a bunch of them, you have to figure out ways of using them up. Okay. All right. So for this card here, and as you can see, I have a couple of different versions of it. I had wasted a couple of these trying to figure out what I was going to do. So this is that little sea bay, and I just did the same exact thing, but this one looks better with the green. So, but I have another piece. So let me just get my parts and pieces for that. Okay. So what I did first is I embossed this with the damask designs. So I'm embossing first, and then I'm going to die cut it out second, and it leaves a subtle embossing. So let me just, and this is not a 3D embossing folder. So you'll need your plate 1, and you'll need 2 for your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And then you'll also need the 4 plate. Sorry, I have a very noisy table. So let me just go over that again. You'll need your plate number 1, your plate number 2, your embossing folder with your cardstock, and then your plate number 4. Okay, so that's the sandwich for this damask designs. And then you end up with this really beautiful cardstock with this beautiful damask embossing. Okay, so then I took the die, and this is from the Gallery Blooms die, and it has this frame that's going to cut all those pieces at once. Okay, and this is just a 4 1/4 by 5 5.5 piece, because this frame is almost 5.5. So I'll need my typical die cutting 1 and 2, and then 2 number 3s with my dies in between. And because it's rectangle, you're going to want to angle it on your cutting plate. So when you angle it, it goes in at an angle and it doesn't get quite so stuck and creating a big boom when it die cuts it. It goes through a little bit easier. Otherwise, it ends up being like a hard edge that it's trying to die cut. Okay. So you can see the one just cuts out all these pieces. So I'll put these aside for something else. All right, so for this, I'm going to need a little piece of the gold, and I'm using this die, which is just a really beautiful, looks almost like lavender or something. And then I'm using this little piece that makes that. So let me just die cut those. And then when I was die cutting these, I had scraps. Let me see where I put them. Oh, this is that other one. This is another one of those motifs that it stays in place, but you can pop it up and give it this really beautiful look. So I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do with this. This is me trying to cut them out and place them, and they end up tearing because they're really not meant to cut out. So I ended up being really frustrated with that because I was hoping that I could just cut them out, but they don't like to be cut out. I know I have scraps here somewhere. I had a bunch of little scraps because when I cut these, I cut them 2 inch by 2 inch by 3 3/4, and which means I was able to get 3 from the piece of designer series paper. Oh, here it is. And then, so let me just show you this scene so that you can kind of get an idea of how I did that. So you can do it with any of the scenes. So this one had more of the clouds, and this was the other one. So I'm just cutting out where the scene is. And so I cut it at 3 3/4 and then 2 inch, 2 inch, and 2 inch. So I'm able to get 3 of these from one piece of cardstock. Okay. So that's an explanation of how I was able to use that. And then I had this little bit of extra. And with this extra, I used "I'm Here for You Always" stamp set or stamp sentiment. So let me just get that sentiment really quick. And I just stamped it on the clouds. Using the black. And just so you know, this is one of those white ink pads that is not filled with ink. And then I made it, I used the Memento Black re-inker and filled it because I like the black soft rather than the fabric. It's way gushier, so you have to be careful. Otherwise it gets inside your, all over in your stamp. So this had just so much of the basic beige, and I think it matched it. And I used the same size die as I did for that other sentiment. And what did I do with it? Ah, here it is. And what I did is I put my sentiment way over to one side so that I could layer my foliage to the left so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. All right. So let me just die cut this, this, and this all at the same time. Looks like it moved over just a little bit, so I'm going to use my green foliage to cover that up. And there's my sentiment. And I best place this back where it belongs before I lose it for good. I like using little pieces of 5x7 magnet sheets that are adhesive, and I just get these from Amazon. If you need the link, feel free to reach out to me, but that way things mostly stay where they're supposed to. And as a reminder, this is the nested essential dies. Okay. So now it's easier if you're using the strips of adhesive. You can also use the edges from your dimensionals. So let me just show you. And here we go, scissors. So I can use I'm going to want this on this back side. So you can see that you can use your edges of your dimensionals as well. And then obviously black would have been better, but and one more in the middle. So one of the things that when I was doing the production is I was folding this back and then placing it on my cardstock. So sorry, I'm working black on black. That way I could get it placed where it needed to go, hold it in place, and then I could peel this back. Now, when it was just the strips, it was easier, but this would work as well. So you can see how I want it to stay in place, but this one, of course, moved, calling me a liar. And then you can peel it back and get the rest of your backing off. But it worked better when it was just the strips, because I think when it's not a smooth strip, it tends to want to buckle a little bit. So, okay, so I have this placed first. Then remember, this is 3 1/4 or 3 3/4 by 2 inches. So this is 2 1/4 by 3 7/8. And I'm going to glue these together. So this is a piece of basic beige, just giving it a little extra layer. And then I'm going to glue it inside in the middle. Making sure that I'm working on the screen. So just get this centered. And then now I'm going to put a glue dot here under the sentiment and a dimensional under this part. Okay, and that way it attaches to the frame. And I like it overlapping the frame. Just gives it a kind of a different look. That helps if I take the backing off the dimensional. And even though this came from the sky above this one, it still matches enough that I was happy with it. And then now I'm just going to use a couple of glue dots in some couple of places, and I just roll it up and stick it, and I'll show you here so you can see what I'm doing. I've got a little piece rolled up here, whoops, and a little piece rolled up there. So you can see I've got a couple of pieces of glue dot. And then I've got some of my little dimensionals that are black, and I'm going to put a little piece here so that it pops up and stays up. And then this little leaf goes right there between that. And then I'm going to add another dimensional and glue dot to my leaf. So I'm putting my rolled up glue dot on the stem. And then I'm just overlapping a little bit. And then I'm going to embellish. Again, because I've got the gold foil, I don't really need two embellishments because I've got all this beautiful gold. So then I just put it on an A2 card back. So I'll use basic beige again. So then the card ends up looking like this. Isn't that beautiful? So not too hard. So don't let it, get you nervous. Just a couple of different pieces. And then of course you're going to have all these leftovers to do these other things with. So I wanted to share with you that don't be dismayed. There's lots of things that you can make with these other pieces. So just as a reminder, hey Lynn, thank you. I'm glad you like them. So these are the middle of the pieces or the frames. And then this one is using this part of the frame. And then you've got this card that's using this part of the frame. So you get to just continue to use them however you want to, but it just gives you all these different options. And then of course this one doesn't have to do any with those, but it's another really beautiful card. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a great evening. If you're watching this later on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe and share with a friend. You can also go to my blog, Wild Violets Art. I always post all of my dimensions and everything on my website so that you're able to recreate it yourself. I'm a little behind, about 2 weeks behind, so I do have some making up to do. Work's been a little over the top lately. So thank you for your patience. And I'll see you on Friday. And we will do some scrapbooking with these beautiful elements of the beautiful gallery. And be sure to check out my shop tomorrow because all of this beautiful gallery merchandise will be available along with tons of other things with the new annual catalog. So just as a reminder, this beautiful gallery was on page 52 to 57 in the annual catalog. So all that is going to be available along with the online exclusive. So tons of goodies, so many beautiful ideas, too much. All right, enjoy and have a great evening.